Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome to our World Tourism Day Forum on Over-Tourism, hosted by the Center for Responsible Travel and the George Washington University's International Institute of Tourism Studies. I'm Nori Quintos, and I will be your guide for the day. I'm an editor-at-large at National Geographic and an independent communications consultant working with destinations and travel companies. I travel the world, but Washington, D.C. is home. In my work, I've seen firsthand what happens when a destination is, quote, loved to death, and it's not pretty. So it's especially fitting on this World Tourism Day to see this assembly of gathered people come together to address this important topic. The goal for today is to explore the different faces of over-tourism and to find solutions. Over-tourism is a simple word that belies the range and complexity underlying it. To that end, we need the cumulative brainpower and active participation from everyone here in this auditorium and those people in the live stream in our audience. We're using a platform called Slido to help with this. As you listen to the speakers, please engage, ask questions, share, comment. We want this to be an interactive conversation. A Q&A session will follow each of the 5 panels. There are 2 ways to ask questions, and it depends on where you are. If you are here in the auditorium with us, you can simply raise your hand and be recognized by the moderators. If you are part of our live streaming audience not in DC, please use the Slido platform. Okay, since Slido is going to be your new best friend, let's take a minute to figure out how it works. There are a lot of digital natives in this room, I can tell, but I also can tell that some of you are late adopters. We want to capture everyone's thoughts. So please refer to your program on page 3 for the instructions. The quick start is you'll connect to Wi-Fi, then open your internet browser and go to slido.com. You'll enter the event code, again, found in your programs on page 3. And from then, you should be able to participate in the conversation by asking questions, making comments, and participating in the polls. At the wrap-up session at the end of the day, we'll be discussing some of the gathered audience insights. And if you need assistance with Slido, the wonderful people at the registration tables can help you. And for those of you socializing out this event, the hashtags are WTD 2018 and Over-Tourism Solutions. Okay, I know a lot of people here are news hounds, so in case you're tempted to check the headlines while you're here today, I've saved you the bother. It looks like it's going to be a really, really slow news day here in Washington. Really not much happening at all. So you can just forget about the world outside for today. All right? We all clear on that? Great. So that's it for the housekeeping. We'll first hear from the heads of our host organizations, Seleni Matus, the Executive Director of George Washington University's Institute of Tourism Studies, and then Dr. Martha Honey, Executive Director and co-founder of the Center for Responsible Travel. We'll start with Seleni. For more than 15 years, Seleni has been a leader in the field of sustainable tourism. A native of Belize, she served as that country's Director of Tourism before joining Conservation International, Sustainable Travel International, and finally George Washington University. Seleni has spearheaded a number of initiatives that have brought together community groups, government representatives, and businesses, ensuring that everyone benefits from the influx of visitors and contributes to the protection of places. And when she's not in the Caribbean, meeting with ministers, or in North Dakota with tribal leaders, or in Indonesia with community representatives, she's in the classroom on this very campus, teaching students about the potential of tourism as a tool for social, economic, and environmental development. A warm welcome to Seleni Matus.
Good morning and warm greetings to everyone. Esteemed colleagues, prestigious speakers and moderators, members of the academic community, and our students, welcome. We're so glad to have you here with us in person, and then those of you that are joining via live stream. This is a very momentous occasion for sure. My friend and colleague, Martha Honey from the Center for Responsible Travel and I, alongside our respective teams and sponsors, we've been hard at work planning this event for some time. And even though we had started to discuss the theme of over-tourism many months ago, we didn't recognize that the subject's importance would increase over the past few months. This is definitely a topic that has taken root, and we see more and more cases around the world, so extremely relevant. So here we are on World Tourism Day, addressing what's turned out to be the most compelling center stage subject in the entire industry. And as tourism grows, we know that it's been on a growth trajectory for the past 8 years. Over-tourism is certain to become increasingly important. That's why we're so happy that you've all decided to join us today and help us solve this incredibly complex and critical challenge. Tourism, as you all well know, has enormous potential as a development tool. As technology does more to up tourism, bringing to the market the farthest flung corners of the world, visitors have new opportunities to experience remote places. And these places, which often have little opportunity for development, can now participate in a growing tourism industry. That's the good news. But it does mean that more and more places are competing for visitor attention and dollars. And while the role of destination organizations has historically been to invest resources in raising the profile of destinations through marketing and measuring success in terms of visitor numbers, we need to start shifting our metrics. We need to stop wondering how to attract more visitors and instead start asking, how much is too much for our people, our natural environment, our culture, and places? Today, we're seeing more and more places overrun by tourists. As a former director of tourism, I have grappled firsthand with the difficult realities of changes occurring in destinations in the Caribbean, the world's most tourism-dependent region, which, sad to say, is also suffering from over-tourism. So how do we start to shift the dialogue? How do we apply lessons we've learned from sustainable tourism to over-tourism? Let's set the stage for today's conversation by establishing some knowns, some givens about over-tourism. Over-tourism, like the industry overall, is complex. While we want to continue to encourage tourism and ensure that it benefits people and places, we want to encourage responsible management. Over-tourism in one place can be completely different from over-tourism in another place. For example, over-tourism in natural protected areas like parks is different than over-tourism in urban areas. Finding solutions to over-tourism is a shared responsibility. We know that because that's the nature of the tourism beast. Solutions need to be developed through participation with community groups, private industry, government, and other key stakeholder groups. Responses to over-tourism have to recognize that the problem is not rooted in tourism, but consumerism, in overzealous consumption. The over-tourism discussion is now moving from purely concerns about overcrowding to issues related to livability of places. This is particularly true in urban areas. Solutions must therefore help to evolve our traditional models of tourism governance and management to new models that embrace the values of placemaking. What do I mean? Destinations are different than places. Places are very intentionally developed with very specific identities, cultures, and characters. Placemaking can be one avenue to managing over-tourism. Of course, there are many others. I'm looking forward to today's many multifaceted discussions and to the global perspective that many leaders in our industry, some who have traveled many miles to be here with us today, will no doubt bring to bear as they describe their insights about the challenges and, most importantly, the solutions that they're employing to address over-tourism. The call to action is simple. Let's use today to learn from each other and look to put into action new solutions that will ensure that over-tourism is not creating under-tourism, and understand the urgency of working at scale and at a pace commensurate to the changes occurring. Our industry is depending on us. As many of you know, the International Institute of Tourism Studies here at George Washington University works in tandem with our Master of Tourism Administration program. And many of the students of that program are here with us today and have participated in the projects that you're about to see highlighted in our brief video. While we're working in Indian country to create tourism opportunities, we're also working in places such as Bali in Indonesia and the Cayman Islands, for example, to address over-tourism. But before sharing the video, I want to thank each and every one of you here in the room, on live stream, and in particular our sponsors, speakers, and moderators. Thank you very much, and please enjoy our brief video. Telling their tribal stories on their own terms allows the Plains Indians to reclaim their heritage and generate additional income for their communities and families. Natasha Gord from North Dakota's Spirit Lake Nation was inspired to share her people's cultural narrative during a visit to nearby Fort Totten. While the state-run site still describes how the school once provided academic and vocational training that prepared Indian youth for life off the reservation, Gord became determined to share the more candid truth with visitors. For more than 30 years, George Washington University's International Institute of Tourism Studies has been guiding community leaders, policy makers, industry influencers, and the academic community on a journey toward a more just, equitable, and profitable path, one that rewards tourists and host communities. In Havana, students recently evaluated homestays and made recommendations for how hosts could better attract travelers seeking the real Cuban experience. In the Cayman Islands, we're working to safeguard precious cultural and natural sites by developing a national visitor management plan. in Indonesia, we're partnering with the Ministry of Tourism and local universities to address problems on Bali, which is being loved to death, and to recommend sustainable solutions for communities near the UNESCO-designated creative city of Bandung. And in the United Arab Emirates, we are working with the Ras Al Khaimah Tourism Development Authority to draw outdoor enthusiasts to the region and help make it an adventure travel mecca. At the International Institute of Tourism Studies, we believe in the power of tourism. Sustainable tourism for good.
Thank you so much. Over the last 2 decades, Dr. Martha Honey has been a pioneer and fierce advocate for responsible tourism. She has written, led research teams, consulted, and lectured widely on such subjects as ecotourism, travelers' philanthropy, cruise and resort tourism, coastal and marine tourism, climate change, and certification issues. Before that, Martha spent 20 years as a journalist based in East Africa and Central America. She has most recently authored and edited a new study on 50 years of cruise tourism in the Caribbean and lessons learned for Cuba. Friends, Martha Honey.
Thank you, Nori, and good morning to you all. I bring you a warm welcome on World Tourism Day and our session here on Over-Tourism Seeking Solutions, which is co-hosted by my organization, the Center for Responsible Travel, or CREST. We are very pleased to be partnering with Seleni and her colleagues here at the Institute, the International Institute of Tourism Studies at GW. I wanted to take a moment just to give you a little bit of background about CREST, my organization. This year, CREST is marking its 15th anniversary. We began in 2003 in the wake of the UN's International Year of Sustainable Tourism, of ecotourism. CREST was initially a bi-coastal organization with a co-director and office at Stanford University. Today, we have a broad network of academic affiliates across dozens of universities and a wide range of disciplines in the United States and around the world. Our academic affiliates, together with our extensive roster of top-tier tourism consultants, collaborate with CREST staff to carry out our projects. When CREST began, our focus was on ecotourism as the type of tourism most appropriate for fragile ecosystems and indigenous populations. However, after several years, we purposely expanded our mission, recognizing that the principles and good practices that had been honed through ecotourism needed to be applied to the entire tourism industry. In particular, we began a range of projects to examine coastal and marine tourism as the fastest growing sectors of the tourism industry, and the sectors particularly vulnerable to climate change. CREST is not a conventional tourism consulting firm. Rather, we are a nonprofit organization committed to changing, we say transforming, the way the tourism industry works and the way people travel. We don't take just any consulting opportunity that comes down the pike. Instead, we select projects that we feel can move the needle on sustainability, that help businesses, governments, and communities to create and manage tourism that meets the needs that meets international standards for socially and environmentally responsible travel. We do so through projects, publishing reports and studies, producing documentary films, organizing conferences, forums, and think tanks, and public speaking and media outreach around critical issues facing the tourism industry. Last year, to mark the UN's International Year of Sustainable Tourism for Development, CREST organized, together with the UN Environment Program, our first World Tourism Day Forum here in Washington. This is our second annual forum, and we plan to continue to host World Tourism Day events in DC as part of our contribution to our home city. We selected to focus on this year on overtourism because, as Seleni so aptly outlined, it has rapidly emerged as one of our most urgent problems. In fact, I contend that overtourism, together with climate change, are today the two most critical issues facing the tourism and travel industry. We hope today's forum will shed light on a range of issues contributing to overtourism, as well as on innovative solutions that are beginning to be implemented in some of the cities, parks and protected areas, beaches and coastal communities, World Heritage sites, and destinations that are in the crosshairs of overtourism. Today as well, CREST is releasing its annual signature publication, Trends and Statistics, for 2018, which has a focus this year on overtourism. Each year we put together with partner organizations this publication in order to track consumer, industry, and destination trends in the field of responsible travel. You'll find a copy in your packet. Finally, I'd like to conclude by sharing with you a short video that CREST has just produced, in fact, literally this week. This marks its debut showing. Thank you.
At the Center for Responsible Travel, we believe travel done well can promote a healthy environment while helping communities thrive.
Tourism is the world's largest service industry. In fact, it provides 1 in 10 jobs globally.
But tourism, more than any other industry, relies on a healthy environment and vibrant local cultures.
The way we have been traveling, unfortunately, oftentimes does a great deal of damage. We are losing some of our most precious heritage sites, some of our most precious cultures, because of what is being called over-tourism. We must transform the tourism industry in order for tourism itself to survive. What we believe is that we need to really look at tourism with the same kind of rigor that we've looked at the oil industry, we've looked at mass agriculture, and so on, to help people understand the impact of tourism.
CREST is unique, providing interdisciplinary analysis and innovative solutions to support responsible tourism.
CREST projects have ranged from a study of the economic value of bear hunting versus bear viewing in the Great Bear Rainforest in British Columbia, to helping Cuba learn some of the lessons from cruise tourism as they enter into the cruise market. At CREST, we believe the answer is not to stay home. Rather, it is to travel in ways that are smarter.
Responsible travel provides a wonderful vacation that protects the environment, provides benefits to local communities, and honors indigenous cultures.
My name is Martha Honey, and I believe we can transform the way the world travels.
Thanks, Martha. That was a great video. I now have the pleasure of introducing you to Helen Morano of the World Travel and Tourism Council, or WTTC. Helen is the Executive Vice President of External Affairs and leads efforts to expand awareness and engagement of WTTC and the travel industry with key tourism stakeholders, academic institutions, and non-traditional organizations on the supply chain. She also built the WTTC's Government and Industry Affairs Department to better present the industry perspective to government leaders and organizations. Helen Morano, please.
Well, first of all, I'm sorry I don't have a video. Second of all, I've been given 3 minutes. Third of all, happy World Tourism Day! Yay! Aren't you glad to be in this industry? And despite over-tourism, you're doing a great job. And those of you entering, don't be afraid. It's going to be a wonderful ride. I know, I've been in it too long. So I'm very pleased to be here. Thank you both for having WTTC have an opportunity to share from a private sector perspective really what we want to do together with institutions, our stakeholders, and certainly with governments to address this issue, among others. WTTC does serve as the authority, private sector authority for travel and tourism, comprised of about 160 members right now, 170 I think last count was actually, and $680 billion in revenues represented by this core group across all segments of the sector. And we're proud to serve in this industry by providing the economic impact data that many of you use. And I know the students do, because they always tell me, oh, you're WTTC, I use your data all the time. So I wanted to bring the greetings of our President and CEO, Gloria Guevara, as well as our chair this year and into the next year, Chris Nassetta from Hilton, right in your backyard, and a wonderful leader. We are very focused on 3 strategic priorities at WTTC, as you can see: security and travel facilitation, the crisis preparedness, as well as, most of all, sustainable growth, which, as you all know, has quite a few dynamic elements. And one of the added values, I would say, for the concerns of these CEOs, along with the whole industry, and why we value our relationship with academics, is the future workforce. So I would add that to the list in the future for our sustainable abilities. I think that most of you are familiar with our data. Some of it's been quoted. We always feel great when that happens. Thank you. 1 in 10 employees in our workers are employed in our industry from all ranges, career paths all the way through, 10.4% of the GDP. But I think the most important asset is that we are growing faster in travel and tourism's contribution to GDP than global GDP is growing. So I think that's something to hang your hat on and know that you're contributing to the health and wealth of the economies across the world. We know that the future also poses a very challenging issue for us, as we see with WTO, 1.8 billion travelers coming down the pike, and we intend to still see the GDP growing, so the contribution is there. So this is a timely subject to address, because we have to be able to be prepared and manage. And I'd like to recognize Don Welsh, who is here from Destination International, who has this as one of the top priorities in his organization, being the management organization for destinations. I'd also like to recognize Isabel Hill, who is here from the National Travel and Tourism Office for you here in the United States. And others that are here, I recognize certainly the power that you bring to the table for being able to manage both tourism and this kind of media uproar that we're having in our industry, for our industry, and about our industry. And certainly the anger, the pieces of and parts of civil society, the residents, and then just the joy of wanting to check off your bucket list. I think media should start making new bucket lists and stop with the 100 top destinations to go to and start talking about the unseen ones, but do it softly so they don't all run over there. But they have really come out with a strong voice, the residents have, and going across the world, as I do, speaking and working with people. This is a primary issue now, and media has only compounded it. I'm not blaming media, I'm saying they're taking it forward, and we're standing up to take responsibility. And in that responsibility, we were very pleased to partner with McKinsey last year and face this problem and look at the diagnosing of the problem. And these are the aspects that we saw as trying to recognize the compounding let's try that again, the compounding issue with the residents, as well as infrastructure overload and other aspects, but most of all, the protection that's needed for the cultural and heritage in the destination. And the solutions were at that time of generic recommendation, and I hope provides a bit of a platform for the discussions that we're going to have today, along with the paper and the studies that have been, to further our view and everyone's needed view of how to approach this positively and not let the negativity of it undermine the power of travel and tourism. So I'm very excited to be here, to be working together with you. We're working with CLIA, the Cruise Line Industry Association, the Destination International, as a collaboration of how to approach this, going to some of the destinations, and working with a very astute urban planner to look at this from an outside perspective and how this can be brought into the planning preparation of destinations. So I certainly celebrate today. I'm very proud to be in this industry. I know we have our challenges, but anything can get done, and I just think that you need to stand up today and feel proud that you are part of this industry. So thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you, Helen. Thank you for reminding us that we all deserve to be proud of working in this industry.